I'm just doing this short introductory video today as you get to attend a town hall facilitated by our personnel experts from the Air Force Reserve Personnel Center. As many of you are probably aware, General Healy has directed a change to our AGR program. In working with Chief White and the entire leadership team, the time had come to make some changes to a legacy program based on many of the changes that have occurred, both congressionally driven and readiness driven as we transform the organization to be ready for any fight. Of particular interest to most of you, as some of you participate in this program to work towards a 20-year active duty retirement, which you can still do, the significant change involves term length and the determination of career status. Tour lengths for the AGR program now are set by the wing commander or your equivalent authority in your organization. Those tour lengths can range from 2 to 5 years. The good news here with this change is we no longer need a corporate process or a decision process to determine whether or not somebody has achieved career status. AGRs that have participated in the program for 6 years now automatically become a career status AGR. So I encourage you to continue to take part in these forums, ask questions, inform yourself, and be at ease about these changes and how they prepare us dynamically for the future fight. Lieutenant General Healy, Chief White, myself, and the entire leadership team stand ready to support you as we help you provide the nation's defense.
There is a tasker out there right now with the NAFs. Members have been notified if they are impacted by this 5-year long tour decision space. And the wing commanders will either allow the member to retain their current date of separation, give the opportunity for members with more than 20 years of total active federal military service to either apply for an active duty retirement or for another position, or the member's orders will be modified to reflect a date of separation of 1 January of 2024, and the position will be re-advertised. Those decisions are due back to our team by 1 January. And at that time, our assignments team will make any necessary modifications to orders. There will be a dedicated question and answer event for this very targeted group of individuals. So if you can, try to retain those questions for that dedicated event at a later time so that we can keep the larger conversation applicable to everyone else on the line, unless time permits, and we will address those questions at the end of the town hall. Okay, so I wanted to provide a few scenarios or examples of how people may be impacted by the program changes. One of the first questions that might come up is, I'm a career status AGR. What does this mean for me? Career status is an opportunity for members to pursue up to 20 years of active duty retirement. And under the new policy, all AGRs will be required to competitively apply for their follow-on positions. Again, this really gets after General Healy's approach to readiness now and ensure that our mission moves forward and that airmen are continuing to grow within their career fields and in their career paths. Okay, another question that we've been asked: if you're a billet owner and you advertise one of your positions during the October cycle, you will have the opportunity to determine your tour length. Again, these tour lengths can be offered to members in the amounts of 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. And what we'll need is for the member who is doing the 06 concurrence in Talent Marketplace to annotate that initial tour length during the bidding process. If you are unfamiliar with that bidding process or the 06 concurrence, I invite you to join our Talent Marketplace billet owner channel in Teams, where my team will be able to provide you with step-by-step directions and the variety of resources that have been made available to support billet owners in that venue. And then once we get that initial tour length set from the wing commander or equivalent, our team will notify the member upon their selection notification of the length of tour that they are being offered. This scenario applies to those 250 personnel that I mentioned. If you've been on the same AGR order for more than 5 years, or your date of separation is greater than 5 years from the tour start date, you will fall into that long tour decision tasker that is currently out in the field. You'll have these conversations, and I encourage these conversations to be had at the supervisor, squadron, group, and wing commander levels, as wing commanders are making the decision that makes the most sense for their unit's readiness and the readiness of the airmen in the affected airmen. And of course, you have the opportunity to apply for your same position and establish a new tour. All right. If you fall into that group of people and you have more than 20 years of total active federal military service, you are not going to be forced to retire. You have the opportunity to apply for an active duty retirement, reapply for the same position, pursue other opportunities in the AGR program, or seek a position in a different status or component. Once again, providing enhanced readiness and rotation and growth in the AGR program. Okay, we have today's town hall. Thank you for giving us your time today and taking time out of your busy schedules to hear about what we're working on and what we've been working on. We'll also hold another town hall during the 15 October UTA weekend at Mountain Standard Time, noon Mountain Standard Time. So as promised, the policy letter and the FAQs related to program change can be found at both of these hyperlinks. I'd like to mention the FAQ specifically. As we get more questions, and the questions that are asked today and the questions that are asked on the 15th of October, we'll be including those questions and updating the FAQs on a regular basis. So it is going to be the best source of information for you as you as we kind of step through these next few months and get into the execution of the new policy. So that's a resource available to you. You might want to bookmark that hyperlink. Okay, that's a very, very short slide deck, and that's by design because I'm sure that we have some questions in the field. And I'm going to turn the time over to my moderator to begin asking those questions. We'll take them in order and see where we go from here.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Chief Strickler. First question is from Chief Yaruso. Good afternoon, Major. As the MFM for security forces with the largest AGR footprint, I need to see that targeted group. Will we be getting him the group of the affected members with orders to go past the 5-year timestamp?
Hey, Chief, thanks for the question. You can first start with the NAF. We didn't send the list out to the career field managers. We did send them out to the NAF A1s and the NAF commander workflows, as well as the AFRC Director of Staff TMT workflow. That's where those lists are available for action.
And Chief, we see you have your hand up if you'd like to go ahead and further clarify if needed.
Hey, thanks, Chief Strickler. Good afternoon, ma'am. I appreciate the answer to the question. I understand that. We need a seat at the table to discuss this. I'm getting bombarded with questions, and they're valid questions from the security forces for folks that have been in these AGR seats for some time. And the general consensus or some of their feelings is that the carpet's being pulled out from underneath them because they were either converted positions in the past, or they've been sitting in there. Now they're essentially going to compete and have to be forced to move, or could arbitrarily be removed when they initially thought they had career status, or at least that is the impression that they're receiving, even though if that's not entirely correct. So I'm trying to put out those fires as I get them, but really we just need to clarify this. And also the MFMs that this is affecting should have seats at the table to discuss this. So I appreciate the answer, and I'll be looking out for that tasker to address those individuals as I see them. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Next question is from Master Sergeant Shatuk. I hope I'm saying that okay. What is the name of that team? I believe that's going to be in reference to the billet owner team, Talent Marketplace.
It is called Talent Marketplace Billet Owner Channel, AGR positions only. I think it's a very long title. However, one of my moderators can add the link to this chat And you can just follow the hyperlink request to join and we'll get you added. Thank you.
Next question is from Senior Master Sergeant Pasternak. If a member has been in their current order longer than 5 years and their current DOS is 2027, will they be able to go to this date if the Wing CC approves?
Absolutely. That's one of the 3 decisions that the Wing Commander has the option to make. And that will be communicated to the member through the notification process on that tasker that I previously mentioned.
Thank you. Second Lieutenant Pearson, how are career AGRs going to be handled if at the end of tour and not accepted for another applied position?
Okay, so thank you, ma'am, sir, Lieutenant. That's a good question. And I do want to just clarify that, as I mentioned previously, all AGRs will be released on their date of separation if they're not extended up to the 5-year point. If they reach the 5-year point and they do not have a follow-on AGR assignment, they'll be released on date of separation. And we encourage people to continue to apply and to seek mentorship in positions if they're finding that they're not being successful in their application attempts. Seek out a trusted mentor to see how they can become either more competitive or find a path that will be a good fit for them and the Air Force Reserve.
Right, this next one is from Tech Sergeant Lopez. This is a rather long one, so bear with me here, possibly a 2-parter. Will the AGRs that converted from ART to AGR prior to this new change be grandfathered into the old AGR program? By that, I mean, when we ARTs converted to AGR, we were never told that our AGR position will turn into a term position and that we will still have returning rights according to USERRA. And so now you're saying that we will have to reapply for our own positions with the possibility of not returning. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely, that is correct. So you'll have return rights if you go on active duty, whether it be for an AGR tour, a deployment, a school, etc., and you invoke your right to USERRA return rights. That's a civilian personnel matter that you would need to coordinate with your servicing civilian personnel office, regardless of the federal or local government agency that you are assigned to. At the end of every AGR tour, once that 5-year maximum tour length has been reached, all members should reapply, and the Wing Commander has the opportunity to select the same incumbent for those people who have very special skill sets or need to remain in place for one reason or another. I really encourage those conversations to be had with unit leadership to ensure that everyone has a very clear picture of expectations for mission readiness and airman growth.
Thank you. Next question. Why won't the AGR length be stated at advertisement? Why wait until a candidate is selected? From Captain Jones.
Hey, Captain Jones, thank you for the question. So this will be up to the Wing Commander. As billet owners advertise, they certainly could include language in the advertisement in Talent Marketplace about the length of the tour if they know ahead of time how long they want that individual to be on that assignment. Or they can make that notification upon the bidding process. Either way, the Wing Commander is going to set the tour length. And let me offer a couple of examples as to why it might be different for certain positions and not others. Special duties, commander positions, it may be the desire of the commander that, or the career field manager or MFM, that people in special duties or commander or senior enlisted roles don't stay in that position any longer than 2 years. And so it might depend on the person. There are certain bonus programs that require a tour length of 5 years in order to receive the full benefit of the bonus program. So it just kind of depends, but the biggest takeaway is the maximum flexibility of the Wing Commander to be able to set that initial tour length.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question from an old AGR management friend, Master Sergeant Navarro. Hello, sir. Will positions that have been advertised until filled need to have a tour length determined once a selection is made?
Yes, sir. Every single AGR position beginning with this October cycle, will need to have an initial tour length set regardless of when the selection is made, whether it be a new advertisement, re-advertisement, or until filled.
Question from Tech Sergeant White. What is the difference between career and non-career status with the change?
So career status is a bylaw program that is directed at the Department of Defense level. All service branches and all components that have an AGR program are directed to have a career program. Different branches of service and different status types have handled and managed their AGR program differently over the year, their AGR career status program differently over the years. And based on the feedback and assessment that we conducted by direction of the CAFR, it was determined that career status is going to be automatically granted to members once they reach 6 cumulative years in the AGR program, and that it offers an opportunity for people to serve up to that 20-year TAFM's date. And that's kind of where we landed with the policy.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Major Harris has 4 questions, so we'll address these one by one. First question, is there a limit to how long of an extension the wing commander can be approved? For instance, if a member is hired on a 2-year tour, can they be extended for 3 years? Or is the extension limited to only 2 years or less?
Hi, Major Harris, thank you. Yes, so as long as the extension does not exceed the maximum tour length of 5 years, the wing commander has as much flexibility as he or she desires to keep that member in their tour. So those options will shift on the next ACD cycle. You'll see longer tour lengths, tour extension options on future ACDs as we kind of get this program under us and have those initial tour lengths set. So great question, thank you.
Question number 2 from her. For career status AGRs, do they receive priority consideration for positions or any assistance in career management from ARPC?
No, ma'am, not at this time. There is no priority consideration for career status AGRs. And that is not part of the program change. That's been that way for some time. So priority consideration is not a part of the new policy.
Question 3, are ART to AGR conversions still occurring, or is that done permanently and only vacant positions being converted?
I can only speak to the execution side of the encumbered ART to AGR conversion. We are not anticipating any further, any new encumbered ART to AGR conversions in any future fiscal years. I think we have a handful of unencumbered positions that are still set to convert during this fiscal year, but we should not be doing the direct hire of encumbered ART to AGR conversions any further.
All right, and her last question. Will AFRIC be bringing back the AGR backfill program where units can receive a temporary AGR for hard to fill backfill positions that are obligated but vacant?
That is an excellent question, ma'am, and I will need to do a little research and get back to you. So we'll include that in our FAQ update once this town hall has concluded.
Next question is from Master Sergeant Rajanin. I'm totally butchering that, so apologies here. How should AGRs who would like to reapply for their positions versus extend to the 5th year proceed with their continuation decision? I have USARA rights until year 5, so I would like to reapply while I still have return rights.
I'm not sure I understand the question, so I'm going to do my best to answer, but depending on when your date of separation is, I would immediately begin conversations with your unit leadership at date of separation as that's approaching to go ahead and advertise the position so that you can apply for it. And then have that initial tour length set. It sounds like you've got some plans with your timeline for USARA return rights. So I would coordinate with your leadership on what that timeline looks like and take advantage of the maximum flexibility available to your wing commander.
Thank you, ma'am. Major Luschliger has a TMT question on the tasker titled Changes to Active Guard Reserve Program. So this tasker included the spreadsheet for affected members. This list only includes members who have already been on tours longer than 5 years as of today. However, there are a number of additional AGRs in our wing that will be on tours for longer than 5 years based on their current AGR tour start date and the current DOS identified in their AGR tour order, i.e. start 15 December 17 and 31 December 26. These members are not identified on the spreadsheet. Were these members intentionally left off of the spreadsheet?
Thank you for that question. We actually were just talking about this this morning. So that list that was sent out to the NAFs was pulled back in August, and we have an ACD cycle coming up. 60 days have transpired between when that list was initially pulled. We were driving very hard at achieving our FY22 end strength target, so we brought on a lot of AGRs in the last 60 days. So my program support and analysis team will be running an updated roster, and we absolutely appreciate the feedback if there's somebody that we've left off, and I'm going to rely on our FSS counterparts and mission partners to make sure that everyone is given due consideration under the new policy. So thank you for that, and be on the lookout. We will not be updating the current TMT. We'll be sending out an additional tasker so that the lists don't get mixed up. So thank you for that.
I would also like to, there's a link that has been populated in the chat from Senior Master Sergeant Tapia. This is that talent marketplace channel link. So please reference that for any folks that have questions about talent marketplace, billet owner teams. Next question is from Tech Sergeant Crezzy. With term no longer applicable, does that mean your tour accepted prior to change is grandfathered? Additionally, does that mean your tour accepted prior to change? I'm sorry, I repeated that part. Additionally, does this mean your next acceptance of tour is no longer tour and now being term? Okay. With members and families uprooted from previous careers and HORs, is the board taking into consideration for previous tours now terms with expectation of continued income to now be a term without follow-on? So this one, I think we've hit home pretty well.
Okay, so we have answered this question in a couple of different ways, but I don't mind addressing one nuance that was different from previous questions. So there's no board process happening with people who are on tours that are longer than 5 years. This is a wing commander unit-driven, personalized conversation that's going to happen with the people who are on long tours. So there's no board process that is involved. Now, under an AGR continuation decision cycle, that's a different process, and it does not apply to those who are on long tours. Those who are meeting the October ACD are separate from the people who are currently on orders that are longer than 5 years. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question from Lieutenant Colonel Camp. For AGRs that have been granted ACD and have over 18 years TAFMs, but not 20 years, how does sanctuary come into play now?
Yep. Hey, this is Colonel Hyan. I'm going to go ahead and answer that. So we are in the process of working on a new policy for sanctuary through Air Force Reserve Command and up through the CAFR on what we're going to do to take care of AGRs that are meeting this sanctuary window. So we're going to have to get back to you on that. But what I would recommend is to have that conversation with your commander, and as you are in the sanctuary window, that you request to go to the 20-year point at least on this current tour. If that is not an option and the wing commander does not approve going through the sanctuary window and getting you to 20, then you will have an opportunity to do a sanctuary waiver through AFRC A1K. But again, we are working on new policy, and once we get that approved through the CAFR, we'll get that out as soon as we can.
Thank you very much, Colonel Hyan. Next question is from Lieutenant Colonel Guard. What is a priority for recruiting off active duty? These changes would seem to remove much of the incentive to leave the security of active duty for the potential unknown of a at most 5-year assignment. Kind of goes back to the same piece that we've been driving home.
This is a great question, and thank you. We work very closely with our recruiting service partners. We can't do our job without them. We do rely in the Air Force Reserve on attaining talent and experience from the regular Air Force component. There are going to be some who this is very attractive to, and there are going to be those who it is not attractive to for one reason or another. But at the end of the day, as I've mentioned before, everyone has the opportunity to compete and apply for the exact same position, and encouraging those conversations to happen early and often with your squadron, group, and wing commanders to establish intent. And I'll use an example. Hey, I've got I just separated active duty. I've got a kid in high school. I want to make sure that they're going to be able to graduate in the same place. What's the likelihood that I may be continued on the same tour if I were to compete and reapply? Those conversations need to happen at the unit level. And as we assess our end strength plan and gains for this fiscal year, we'll be working with recruiting and the Pentagon to make sure that we remain on track to meet our end strength goals, and immediately alert our leadership if we see any kind of trends that are concerning, that would impact our ability to meet our end strength requirements set by Congress.
All right, for Master Sergeant Fuller, I just wanted some clarification. If you have career status, is your position still going to get advertised? If someone else is hired, what happens next to the career status AGR? And once again, we have these career status questions. I think we've really hit home on these. So I'm going to go to the next question. From Master Sergeant Perry, AGR advertisement. Why are positions being advertised for those AGR positions that are currently filled with an ART that has not changed over to AGR? AFRIC follow-up relayed certain positions are not real available positions since filled with an ART. Why are they being advertised? Bogging the system down with non-available positions.
Well, I would love to say that the transition to Talent Marketplace has been 100% flawless and without any problems or hiccups. Change is tough, and the AGR program has kind of led the charge as we move our assignments process into the new platform. We work very closely with the business integration cell and the developer to try and work through bugs or glitches, as well as trying to overcome user error, whether that user be the billet owner or our own assignments team. We are just people after all. And so if there's a mistake in Talent Marketplace, I would ask that you engage with my transformation team via the billet owner channel in Teams. That link that Senior Master Sergeant Thapia shared with everyone. If you see problems and concerns, just let us know. Talent Marketplace is pretty agile, and we can very quickly make those corrections. So thank you for bringing that up, and looking forward to seeing you in the billet owner channel.
All right, next question is from Master Sergeant Shattuck, and it's asking about these slides. These slides will be located here in this chat. If they're not there, then they will be uploaded momentarily. We have another career status question from Senior Master Sergeant Ostoy, and I think once again we have really driven this one home. So I am going to put the next question, which is career status. What is the benefit of career status? So we've really driven that one home. Will we be notified? Okay, this is a question from Lieutenant Colonel Guyan. I'm sorry if I butchered that as well. I'm really not doing well on your last name, so apologies. Will we be notified on the steps to request an extension?
So the AGR continuation decision process will remain in place. The current ACD is going to be in the previous platform. So those affected individuals who have dates of separation between 1 July and 31 December of next year should be receiving their notifications this week to meet the AGR cycle for ACD that will happen in VPC. And then those who have dates of separation between January and June of 2024 will actually be notified via our new platform in early 2023. So the AGR continuation process will remain intact. The only difference is that you don't need to request career status anymore. It'll be granted at 6 years. And then those extensions, the extension requests happen on the ACD. And then for those affected by the long tour status, you'll have those conversations using the notification process here in the first quarter of FY23. Thank you.
Next question from Major Rainieri. It seems there are some temp AGR positions still out here. Has there been discussion about making these term positions?
I'm not sure I understand the question, so let me just run down a list of vocabulary words real quick so that I can better understand, and then you can ask a clarifying question if you need to later. Term refers to the 2019 term limited positions. That policy memo went into effect in 2019, became a matter of AFI in 2021. They're not term limited anymore, just all AGR positions are 5 years in length. And then the tour length is going to be set by wing commanders. Temporary positions are AGR requirements on a UMD that have a set funding date. And so if you apply for a temporary position and the funding ends on 30 September of 2023, that's the longest that your wing commander can offer you to be in that temporary position. So if you've got any further questions on that, just drop it in the chat and we'll readdress it later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Next question from Lieutenant Colonel Schmelzer. If a member is in a position for 5 years and have 30 days till they are eligible for retirement, will the member have to reapply for their job, or is there a waiver to let them retire?
And it's Colonel Hyan again, and this goes back to the conversation earlier on sanctuary. So that 30 days has to do with the sanctuary policy, and we are working that through AFRC right now up through the CAFR for approval. That would be something you could ask for your commander to give you an extension on that 30 days. We can certainly work those scenarios individually, but we are hopeful that we will have a policy out soon to take care of folks that are bumping up against that window of being close to retirement.
Thank you, Colonel Hyan. This question is from Master Sergeant Chan. Will there still be a non-sustainable career fields and special duties limit?
No. So based on the policy memo signed by General Healy, the non-sustainable career field listing will no longer be managed by AGR management. Now, having said this, and it kind of goes back to Chief's earlier statement that CFMs and MFMs need to have a voice and a seat at the table. The non-sustainable career, like whether a career field is non-sustainable, needs to be decided at the career field level. Because wing commanders can determine initial tour lengths 2 to 5 years, and all tours are limited to 5 years in total. There's no need for our team to monitor or manage that listing any longer.
We have another question from Major Harris, and I feel like this one's already been addressed. So if it has, ma'am, we can keep going. For obligated positions, ART to AGR conversions, is there an exception to policy to allow a term ART to convert if they sign an SOU that the position will be a term? For example, a member started an AGR tour prior to the position converting. We hired a term ART into the position. The ART who has rights to the position is not returning for the position conversion, but is not resigning. Can we allow the term ART to convert with the AGR position?
I have to defer to my counterpart at AFRC A1 on this one. Our team is really only involved in the execution. Once a member has agreed to convert, we are only involved in validating military eligibility for extended active duty and then generating those orders. So I'd need to defer to AFRC, but we'll forward this question over to Mr. Jackson and allow him to weigh in.
Thanks, ma'am. Can a unit advertise an AGR position as open to all AFSCs?
Yes. That's a very simple question or a simple answer to a complicated question. I'm going to say yes. Now, having said that, there may be career field managers who want to have an opinion and weigh in on that. I encourage all billet owners to engage with their career field managers if they're choosing to open any job to any AFSC, because those, if a member who is not in the duty AFSC has to retrain, the career field manager is going to be involved in the approval process. So if the billet owner is planning to advertise it that way, I would recommend that you have that endorsement ahead of time and be prepared for the staffing process to get that waiver approved in order for the member to attend tech school. So the short answer for my team is sure, we'll go ahead and advertise. Just make sure you've done your due diligence to make sure that you can actually onboard somebody in a retraining status.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question for Master Sergeant Silva. This is going to be another sanctuary question, Colonel Hyan. If your orders are cut short 1 Jan 24, but members are in a sanctuary window for a 20-year TAFMS, what will happen?
So again, I would recommend you have those conversations with your commander and work together to hopefully get you across the finish line on the 20 years. But if not, you do have the option to put in a sanctuary waiver through AFRIC A1K. But again, we're working on that policy and we're really going to try to mitigate this issue when it comes to AGR assignments and getting folks to the 20-year mark.
Thank you, ma'am. Lieutenant Colonel Templeton. His question is, good afternoon. All AGR vacancies used to be visible on my PERS. It's not intuitive to find vacancies on Talent Marketplace. Any guidance on finding vacancies would be appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your question. I'll take this opportunity to give another shout out to the Business Integration Cell for ARPC. They established a Talent Marketplace volunteers channel as well. So not only do we have a where you can receive support as a billet owner, volunteers can also go out to that team and have access to a lot of different resources that were created as we developed requirements and the new process for applying for jobs through Talent Marketplace. There are recordings, there are step-by-step guides. So if I can have my transformation team drop that link into this chat as well, feel free to navigate on out to that team's channel and take a look at the resources. And then if you're still not able to, if you still don't find it intuitive, ask for some support. My team is there to help. And we look forward to our continued growth in the new platform.
Another Major Harris question coming up. For curtailments, is there still a TOS waiver requirement and does it require the NAF CC approval? If so, is it for 30 or 36 months? Some of our personnel are saying that the TOS waiver is waived for FY23 and that curtailments can now be approved at wing CC level.
Okay, so time on station waivers are required by the Department of Defense. Some of the approval authority is delegated, but it is ARPC commander is actually the one who's the approval authority for time on station waivers. We require that coordination happen at the NAF level prior to it being staffed to our building so that General Johnson can see that the wing and NAF leadership is involved, specifically when PCS costs are involved and, you know, leadership is trying to take a look to make sure that there has been a return on investment. So time on station waivers are not waived this year. For 24 months and below, General Johnson is the approval authority. So, and anything between 24 and 30 months is approved at the director level. So Colonel Hyan is the approval authority for those. But any rumors that time on station waivers have been delegated all the way down to the wing is incorrect. are incorrect.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Enlow. Is it possible to curtail current AGR orders and reapply for same position to align with 20-year retirement and aviation bonuses? If yes, is the process smooth enough to not lose a day of AGR time? Our unit currently has all 3 AGR pilots misaligned with AGR orders and aviation bonus.
My tentative answer to this question is yes, no problem. Talent Marketplace is a lot more transparent and flexible than my PERS was in terms of our ability to manage assignments. Our team stands ready to execute AGR orders once the selection has been made. So we absolutely want to support commanders in their flexibility and options to align people with requirements. And in this case, the aviation bonus is one of those requirements. So we would just need to work with my team, but yes.
Another question from Lieutenant Colonel Schmeltzer. When will extension notifications go out for members whose current orders end October 2023?
Those notifications are going out on this October ACD. So this week, and just be on the lookout via via VPC. You'll be notified. And then those coordinations will also all happen in VPC up to your final decision person. And then in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll get the orders modified to reflect any approved extensions.
Master Sergeant McKellop asks, good afternoon. If we choose to reapply for our current position, will the position be advertised before or after our tour ends?
Billet owners can advertise their positions up to 6 months out from the incumbent's date of separation and or the approved terminal or final leave date. So it depends. Now, if you're trying to finagle working around some of the initial tour length conversations, it's just going to kind of depend. But your billet owner can advertise up to 6 months out, and then you would apply, and you would, if selected, you would start your AGR tour, your new initial AGR tour, the day after your date of separation.
Question from Senior Master Sergeant Pasternak. In the FAQs, it shows a table for extensions and who approves them. It has Chief Master Sergeants with 06 colonels requiring AFRIC CD approval. Is this correct? All Chief Master Sergeants require this level of approval?
I'd need to review the table. That doesn't sound correct. So let me take a look, and if we need to update the FAQs, we will do that. That doesn't sound right to me, but we'll check. Thank you.
Another one for Major Harris. I must applaud you. You're getting them in well, ma'am. We are currently in a KC-46 conversion. If we have AGR positions that are cut during that process, what happens to those AGRs? Are their orders curtailed? If so, how much notification will they receive prior to their orders curtailing?
So during mission realignments, certain positions of all status types may be affected by either new AFSCs or funding impacts. We work closely with A1K as well as A58 during the SATAF process to ensure that members are given advance notification so they can plan accordingly. Once we are notified that there's a funding end date to a position, the member needs to be notified that the position is ending and given an opportunity to apply for other positions. So this is a very, very unique circumstance, and members should have been notified during the SATAF process. So this sounds like a conversation we may need to follow up on offline. Thank you.
Sergeant McKendry asks for ART AGR conversion members. They elect to use their USERA return rights. Does their position revert back to ART?
I need to defer to AFRC A1 on this. We are not involved in the conversion process. We are only involved in the execution of orders. So I would recommend that you reach out to Mr. Jerome Jackson at A1, and he may be able to assist with the answer to your question.
And we do have another ART to AGR question. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a diversion back to Mr. Jackson. This is from Mrs. Gallagher. How does this impact AGR positions that were converted from ART positions? I ask this because if the ART decided to convert to AGR in the initial conversion, then she will have the ability to exercise return rights to the same position. If the AGR was concerned that they might not be selected or perhaps do not want to take the risk, then they could convert back to ART status and secure their positions, correct? And I believe that's another one for Mr. Jackson. So we will maintain that same response. Next question from Master Sergeant Wheeler. So it seems like there is, okay, this is a career status one. So we have once again beat that one pretty good. We've hit that one home, I believe. So I will go to the next question from Senior Master Sergeant Z. I'm not going to butcher it. If a member who had been in AGR for so long and decided to get out of AGR, where will they be placed as TR? Do they need to find a home?
Yes, they need to apply for and be selected for a follow-on assignment, regardless of status type. So utilizing our varied advertisement platforms for the different statuses, they would need to follow or pursue their follow-on opportunity.
And then we have a ACD question from Lieutenant Colonel Harris that we have addressed as well. Those ACDs will be going out. Next question from Lieutenant Colonel Quinton. If an AGR member decides to retire and elects to do a 6-month skill bridge, they're no longer coming back to the squadron. Are units able to hire into the position 2 to 3 months prior to the skill bridge start? How much overlap turnover are the units allotted?
This is a very good question. The answer is yes to the skill bridge piece. The overlap is an interesting twist for FY23. We have received approval for 120-day overlap of AGR overages. So you would have up to 120 days for that current incumbent and new incumbent to kind of get that continuity established prior to the skill bridge start date. And then, you know, they go and do the program. So that's late and breaking for FY23 for AGR overages, up to 120 days of overlap. And only for FY23.
Lieutenant Colonel McMillan states, I have members who have signed aviation bonus agreements, which will exceed the length of the curtailed order. How will that be handled?
I'm not a bonus expert and I don't play one on TV, but I do know that when a tour ends and an aviation bonus has been involved, if that person has a new tour started, they fall under a new bonus contract. And in terms of the alignment of the length of the previous contract and the curtailment date, that I'm not too sure of. I would need to see the specific member's record in order to better answer that individual question. Thank you.
And the next two questions are related to career status once again, just asking what it means, which we have spoke to, and then there was another question about career status and what the auto career status looks like. And then there was a question of will it be extended out to the HYT MSD date beyond 5 years? And the answer to that is no, as we have spoken to based on the previous questions related to career status. From Lieutenant Colonel Johnson, what happens to members who are on a bonus contract with AFRIC that exceeds the curtailed DOS? So there's a similar question that was asked before. Do you want to touch on it one more time? Are we good?
Chief, can you repeat the question for me again? I'm just really not sure what's being asked.
When it is time for the extension, do we just, oh, I'm sorry. What happens to members who are on a bonus contract with AFRIC that exceeds the curtailed DOS? So I think this might go back to some of those aviation bonus type questions where we're going to need to align the bonus contract with the order. We'll do some research on that one and we'll get back to you. The bonus one, we have a whole nother section here within DPA. So we'll absolutely contact the experts on this and get some clear guidance out to you all. From Staff Sergeant McKenzie. When it's time for the extension, do we just contact the wing commander or how does that work to apply for the extension?
So that will happen during the AGR continuation decision process, or the ACD, and you'll be notified 12 to 18 months out from your date of separation. You'll have the opportunity to advocate for your request, and then your wing commander will be able to decide the length of extension, etc. So that will all happen during the ACD.
There is a question about the PowerPoint slideshow. Please reference the upload from Master Sergeant Ari Norton, who has placed those slides here in the chat. We're at about the 2-minute mark, so I'm going to reference this last question here, ma'am, and turn it over to you. This is from Lieutenant Colonel Foster. Members currently inside Sanctuary. Their current 5-year AGR assignment will take member to 31 May 2024. This is 92 days short of their retirement. If member invokes Sanctuary, will their orders be amended to their 20-year retirement date of 1 September 2024? Will they be able to remain in their current AGR position, or will they have to reapply as the incumbent for their same job or apply for a new position for the extra 92 days? If this member cannot find another position for 92 days, will ARPC allow this individual to stay in their current position, or will they move them based on the needs of the Air Force Reserve? Thank you for your clarification.
Okay, so one thing that I want to just touch on quickly here is that Sanctuary is a protected status that we want to support for members who have served well and faithfully for more than 18 years of active duty time. It is our job to help make sure that those members are afforded all of the rights that they are entitled to by law. So in these types of circumstances where a member was placed on an order and it didn't take them out to 20 years, absolutely, we will work with you. You can pursue, depending on the gap, the length of gap between the date of separation of the order and the 20-year TAFMS date, you may pursue a wing commander extension. We also have the ability here with our director of assignments who has the authority to do administrative extensions for shorter periods of time. So we will absolutely work with people. We don't want to have to, yeah, so yes, the answer is yes, 20 years. We want people to get to that TAFMS time, and we will work with you.
And that has brought us to our full 1-hour mark here. We still have a ton of questions in the chat that are either repetitive, but if they aren't, then we're going to get to these and we're going to add these to our FAQs and we're going to add these to our next town hall for October 15th. Ma'am, I'd like to turn it back over to you for final comments. Major Pirro, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And thanks to everyone who asked questions. As Chief stated, we will thoroughly review every question in the chat. If you were unable to get your question answered, please check the FAQs. We'll get those updated as soon as we possibly can with all of the questions that were asked today. And then invite you to take advantage of the opportunity to attend and listen in again on the 15th, because a lot of the questions and trending topics that were covered today in your questions will be folded into an updated slide deck for the 15 October Town Hall. Your FSSs were all provided a copy of this slide deck. It was also uploaded to the chat. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to working with all of you to get after getting after your mission. That's what we're here for. We're here to support you, your unit's readiness, your commanders, and our airmen. So have a fantastic day, and we'll see some of you again on the 15th. Appreciate your time. Take care.
Thank you. And for everybody with your hands up, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat and we will get back to it. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.